This world is a prison. And I will set us all free.
So, fuckers, Accolonn here, and welcome back. Of course, today we are going to speculate about the beginning of our universe, the origins of death. A lot of the whispers from Azeroth will be answered in this video, and so much more. We are going to look at the Shadowlands. Remember, you can argue, debate, or discuss any of these things with me every Monday to Friday over on Twitch, or every Sunday right here on YouTube. Let's jump into the video. Right, so let's talk about what we know from BlizzCon. So we've learned that the Chronicles, as I have stated, may I just say this, I said this, I believe Pyromancer said this as well. There's a number of other content creators that sometimes questioned the Chronicles. I know a lot of you have questioned the Chronicles in the past, and I just want to say, haha, I told you, the Chronicles isn't canon, not insofar as we think about canon. It's not the word of God, as I've said multiple times on this channel. The Chronicles is more written from the point of view of the Titan, so it's canon insofar as they are concerned. But when it comes to the Shadowlands, and this is why this is important, the Shadowlands predates the Titans. The Titans themselves knew nothing about the Shadowlands. And so the Shadowlands is a brand new world that we are set to explore. And that is something that I think is truly important about all of this. We've also learned another thing by the lead narrative designer for World of Warcraft, and that is that these 6 forces on the cosmology map are the primordial forces of Azeroth, and they function like batteries. And I know this is something that a lot of people know, but a lot of people know it and yet do not apply it with the knowledge of knowing it, if that makes any fucking sense in anyone's mind except for my own. It is battery packs. It is the way in which you draw from this power. So you use death magic or disorder or light or life or order or shadow magic. You use this as a way to further your goals. These forces are alive. They are constantly vying for dominion. They are constantly vying for power. So this lends some credence to N'Zoth's Whisper. Remember when I covered N'Zoth's Whisper? The one that states there are 6 seats at the high table, 6 mouths hungering, 1 will devour them all. I stated that, and a lot of people came back at me saying, no, dude, that's clearly the Pantheon. It's clearly not. It is these 6 primordial forces. They are the highest order within our universe. That is why it's called the High Table. Because these 6 primordial forces are constantly hungering for more power. So for this theory, we have to go back to a time before a time. And if we look at this map, we find the 6 primordial forces of Azeroth, or of the Great Beyond. In the center of it, we find Azeroth. And connected to Azeroth, we find these 2 planes that very little is known about. The Emerald Dream and the Shadowlands. And what exactly they are, that's the discussion we're going to be having in today's video. So first and foremost, I want you to take a look at this cosmology map. And I want you to realize that each one of these primordial forces have been there since the very beginning of time. Now, I speculated in the past, and let me just make myself bigger here again. I speculated in the past that we are told that the beginning of our universe started with an ocean of light. And then that ocean of light exploded outwards, and it started the Great Beyond, the planets, the Titans. All of this came because of this ocean of light. Of course, we now know that the Shadowlands predates even this time period. Now, back then, my theory was that this has been a battle that raged on long before the Ocean of Light. I said then, as I say now, the Ocean of Light was the last vestiges of defense against some kind of force. Back then, I believed that it's the Shadow. So the Void was winning this battle against the Light. Of course, during during BlizzCon, we learned that no, the light and the void are simply parts of this high table. They are not the heads of the table. They do not control anything. They simply vie for power like the others. You see, I believe if you allow yourself to transport to this time before time, imagine a world where the 6 primordial forces of Azeroth, or of the Great Beyond, waged war. 5 of them joined against one. Death. You see, the reason I say this is we know that each one of these forces, light, life, order, shadow, and disorder, they grow their power by growing their influence. That's how they become more powerful. The void corrupts, and the void corrupts absolutely. The titans and the arcane bring order, and the more order they bring, the stronger they get. They build forges, and they build engines, and all of this feeds into their power. Life, nature, the wild gods, they create more nature. It grows their power by growing the Emerald Dream, by growing life. Life gains power. And for disorder, for the foul, the more it can destroy, the more destruction the Burning Legion can wrought, the stronger the Twisting Nether and the demons grow. But none of these can truly feast on the other. Their power simply grows by growing their influence, except for death, because death feeds on its 5 brothers. And it's interesting how each one of these 5 came up with a system to starve death. And that's why I say transport your mind to a time before time. The 5 primordial forces have their lines of defense. They are fighting desperately, trying to bring death to justice, to jail it, to lock it up. Death is on a rampage. The Maw is consuming everything it touches. The Burning Legion, the Foul, the Disorder, the Light, the Holy, the Naru, Life, the Wild Gods, Nature, Order, Arcane Titans, they're all falling to death. And death is growing stronger with every single battle. Win or lose, if you lose people, if death loses people, it still grows stronger. It keeps claiming lives. It keeps claiming anima, as we learn. And they devise a plan. It's a simple one. Imprison death. We cannot defeat it. But perhaps we can lock it away. Perhaps we can lock it away and we can come up with a system that keeps it in check. And Elune is joined by 2 of her brothers, the Arbiter and the Jailer. Together, they would build this world. The Jailer would forever be tasked with keeping the Maw at bay. The Arbiter would forever be tasked with effectively not overfeeding them all. Trying to sort the souls in such a way that they can always defend against them all. Keep them all at bay. But not starving them all completely, since there are souls that they simply do not know what to do with. And Elune? Her job is to keep the battery alive. Azeroth. Now, I have long since argued this fact. The forges and the engines that the Titans built on Azeroth is not simply to keep her from being corrupted, it is also to keep her from waking up. And I believe that the old gods have the exact same sense of purpose. They do not wish to awaken Azeroth. They simply wish to take her power, to feed off her power, to grow their own. Elune's job, keep her sleeping, because she is the battery that keeps the Shadowlands and the Emerald Dream churning. See, the Emerald Dream is where life is created, where the universe is effectively created. The Shadowlands is where death is imprisoned. Now, the reason I came to this, the way in which I came to this theory, is looking at the Shadowlands and looking at the 4 zones and the more, and not quite understanding why all of this exists. Why do you need, in the realm of death, 4 covenants, when one of them, the Necrolords, is quite literally the military wing of the Shadowlands? What the hell do they defend against? What is their job? Is there another realm where the Shadowlands could get attacked from? Is there perhaps 4 more covenants that we don't know about? And these covenants, every once in a while, just, organize a raid to the Shadowlands that we are going to visit. Why does the Shadowlands need a military wing? Why does it need Valkyr and spirit healers? Ones who decide who to bring to the Shadowlands and bring them before the Arbiter before they get diverted to the Maw or to one of the Covenants. Why? All of these questions burning, and then it dawned on me there is one theory that ties everything together. Sylvanas states when she fights Bolvar, Bolvar says to her, "That power will be your prison." And she says, "This world is a prison." Death is imprisoned inside the Shadowlands. It's the purpose of the Shadowlands. But of course, we've also learned that the Shadowlands is broken. Death is broken. It isn't functioning the way that it should. See, what needs to happen when the Shadowlands is functioning at optimal capacity, the soul gets taken in front of the Arbiter. The Arbiter decides which souls go where. Souls that have serviced in life will go to the Kyrian. Souls that are more militaristic will go to the Necrolords. Souls who are that of nature will go to Aldenweald and the Night Fae. And then those who are wicked and corrupt and a little bit evil, they get sent to Ravendreth, to the Vainfear, to be cleansed and reprogrammed, repurposed, if you will, so that they too can serve the Shadowlands. And the Maw? Well, it is booked or reserved for the most vile creatures in our universe. Those who have no points of redemption. There is not a single redeeming quality to that soul. Only they make their way to the Maw. But in recent years, the Maw and death has changed. Every soul now gets diverted straight to the Maw. And once in the Maw, it is incapable of escape. That soul will now serve as a fuel for the hungering darkness. Our job is to go in there and save the Shadowlands. Figure out why the Maw is acting the way that it is. Why is the souls not capable of escape? Now we know from BlizzCon that this happened a couple of years ago. My question, of course, is what? 2 things happened a couple of years ago. One was the death of Argus, who we've speculated on this channel before is most likely the Titan of Death, is most likely linked to death. And the second is Sargeras plunged his sword into Azeroth. These are the only 2 major events I can think of in the last 2 years that could have broken death. Except, and this is quite literally as I'm talking, the tree, the last remaining world tree, its destruction. Now, while yes, there is still another tree that have healed since, remember the destruction could have been enough The destruction already broke the chain, and while yes, the tree could heal and over time it could get some of its magical properties back, the chain, the link, could never again be fixed. There are 5 world trees that we know of, some sanctioned, some not. There are 5 zones within the Shadowlands, and guys, this is speculation that I'm literally doing on the fucking fly. So this could be very wrong. What if each world tree had a link to a zone inside the Shadowlands? What if the world trees are unlike what we previously speculated? Our previous speculations was that the world tree served as anchors to the Emerald Dream. It connected Azeroth to her dream, and it allowed for the dream to remain safe, and this is how the Old Gods was capable of getting in to the Emerald Dream, was through the world trees. But what if the trees had a completely different role? What if they connected the dream to the Shadowlands? In other words, almost existing in 3 planes at once. It was to ensure the function of the Shadowlands. It was to ensure that the Shadowlands always functioned. That the Maw would not be overfed. And with the breaking of the world trees, the Maw could finally start consuming again. Now, I recognize the first thing that a lot of people are going to say is, Accolonn, if the Shadowlands predates that of the Titans, then fuck me, do they predate the world trees? It doesn't matter. Because if the world trees were built afterwards, and the world trees did reach into the Shadowlands, that connection could have been made post, right? So post-haste, post-mortem, whatever the fuck you want to call it, but after the fact. So that connection could have been made, although maybe not. Because that connection would still then be a connection that wasn't there in the beginning. So that might not necessarily be the case, although the world trees could have been built, and this strengthened the covenants. It kept the covenants strong by being able to feed on the energies of Azeroth, being able to feed on the energies of the Emerald Dream. It kept the jailer strong enough to control death, to control the Maw. Now, I know that Ian said that we're going to fight the Maw, but Ian never said that we're going to kill the Maw. Or the jailer. So let's go back to my original theory, because this world tree theory, let me know in the comment section down below what you think of that. Maybe you can find a way to make it work, because right now I don't think it works. But it was a thought, and yeah, this is what speculation is all about, having those thoughts. So let's talk about Sargeras' sword. And Argus. Now, for the Argus theory to be true, for the Argus theory to hold any sort of sway, there has to be a world in where Sargeras figured this out. Where Sargeras figured out what lies beyond the veil. Now, it's not entirely impossible for Sargeras to have figured this out. We know that Sargeras have always been inquisitive. He's always had this knack for learning about the universe and trying to figure out what this universe is all about. So it's not impossible, but what would be his purpose for this? Well, Sargeras wants to destroy everything. His argument is that if everything is destroyed, then life will begin anew. It has to, right? Life has to begin anew. It is also interesting that it took one moment, a vision that Sargeras had, where Azeroth opened her eye and looked at him, for Sargeras to realize what her role was. Perhaps the sword was truly meant to kill her, because if the battery is dead, the veil dissipates. As the veil has grown weaker, and Azoth states this, the veil has grown weaker. You see, as long as the veil remained strong, the Maw had no other option but to only take the scraps that the Arbiter gives it. But as the veil weakened, as the veil continued to weaken, the Maw could finally take control of the souls coming into the Shadowlands, absorbing it and feeding off of it before it can even go to the Arbiter. And perhaps that was Sargeras's goal. He wants to destroy everything because he is mortally terrified of the Void and of the Void Lords. And his only real option, his only real defense against this is to destroy everything. It now also makes sense why the Void wishes to corrupt a Titan. The Void has to do this because both the Void and the Light is seeking for a warrior strong enough to kill death. Sargeras made his choice. He believes most likely that the Fel and the Burning Legion is strong enough to defeat death. So this is how I think it happened. After Elune and the brothers managed to capture the Maw and imprison it inside the Shadowlands, set up this entire Covenant system to keep the Maw at bay, every single one of these factions that we look at here came up with a brand new system. Life and Nature developed a realm within the Shadowlands. This realm would capture the spirits of nature, prepare them for rebirth, and have them reborn in reality. The Light, they came up with eternity. They made creatures that could simply no longer die. Order, the Arcane, the Titans, they built creatures that was not flesh and therefore immortal in its own way. The Void set up a link, as we learned during BlizzCon, a link between its creatures and it. So when the old gods die, they simply return to the Void. They do not go into the Shadowlands. The Burning Legion did something very similar. They anchored themselves inside the Twisting Nether. And there they would exist for all eternity. Killing them in reality simply takes them back to the Twisting Nether to be born again. And this is how that cycle has repeated itself. This is how all 5 of the original 6 primordial forces starved death. By keeping their souls for themselves, not making the same mistake again. But now with Death Unleashed, this could be a whole new ball game. Death is trying to get free. We know Sylvanas is working with the jailer. We do not yet know whether she is working for the good of Azeroth or for the detriment of Azeroth. Is she trying to become the Maw? Is she trying to become Death? Is she trying to destroy Death? We have none of these answers. None of these make any sense outside of speculation and storytelling and the ability to think that this theory at least encompasses everything. It explains everything, and I believe it explains it elegantly enough that it almost makes sense, which is a lot of the time what I try within my speculation is to come up with elegant theories that explain everything, whether or not there is actual evidence, and in this case, there is none. We have no evidence about the Shadowlands because the Shadowlands is a world we have never known. We have never seen. We have no idea where it comes from. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think of the theory. Let me know what you think the Shadowlands could be, what you think the 6 primordial forces could be up to. Do you agree with me that the Shadowlands was built as a prison and Azeroth is its battery? Or do you think, no, the Shadowlands is something completely different? Who do you think the jailer is? Not who, but what? What is his purpose? What is he meant to be? Let me know in that comment section down below. Remember, you can join me every Monday to Friday over on Twitch or every Sunday right here on YouTube. And then to everyone that wishes to support the channel a little more directly, you can do so by clicking the links in the description down below, becoming a patron, a Twitch sub, or of course, a YouTube channel member. Any and all support is always very much appreciated. And to everyone that is already supporting this channel, thank you so much for your support. It means the absolute world to me. I would not be here without you. Guys, my name is Accolonn, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out, fam.